Have a show of hands, those approving the minutes, please. If you can raise your green card in the air. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. The minutes have been approved. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, does anybody wish to go against that? Anybody abstaining? No? Yes, so the minutes are approved. We'll now move on to the next agenda item, which is the annual report. And I'd now like to hand over to Carrie to explain a little more. Thank you.
Okay, I'll try and get through this as quick as possible, but obviously, if you do have any questions, please save them to the end, but you might want to make a note of them or something so that you don't kind of forget, because something might come up and then by the time I get to the end, you'll have forgotten what it was. Okay. So the Students' Union is a student-led independent part of the university. The union exists to represent students and provide a diverse and inclusive range of activities and services. The union employs 100 permanent staff, 300 student staff, and turns over approximately £8.5 million per annum. On the screens is our vision statement and core values, which provide the backbone to our strategic plan. Our current strategic plan takes us up to the end of this year, and so next term we'll be looking to develop a new one. We'll be consulting heavily with students on this, and so if you have any opinions on what our strategic aims and objectives should be, your input will be invaluable. I'm in the fortunate position of being a second-year SAB, and I'm therefore able to reflect on last year's achievements, monitor our current progress, and look forward to the exciting plans the officer team has for the year ahead. 2012 and 13 was a year of great change for Cardiff University and the Students' Union, which also means it has been a great time of opportunity. The university has a new Vice-Chancellor who has restructured the academic schools into 3 colleges. The union has a new CEO, 1 less elected officer, or vice presidents as they're now known, and has undergone vast physical improvements. I hope that these physical improvements are set to continue, and over the next few months, I'll be talking with students about the plans to redevelop the second floor. That includes Solus Nightclub, the kitchen, the TAF, and fingers crossed, the creation of some better outdoor social space. I'd like to thank and congratulate the officer team of 2012-13 for their hard work and dedication, which is exemplified by the number of wins that you can find in the annual report. They lay the foundations for a number of this year's projects, meaning the 2013-14 team have been able to hit the ground running. There are a long list of achievements and wins secured for Cardiff students last year, which you'll find in the full online version of this report. I'll just read out a few of them. So we introduced a zero tolerance to sexual harassment policy across the university and Students' Union. We successfully lobbied the university for ethical investment of its banking and finances. We held a Go Green Week, offering cycling awareness, bike security classes and masterclasses on growing your own vegetables. We introduced a safe taxi scheme to ensure students can get home safely, even with no money. We gave away over 2,000 free teas, coffees, waters and energy drinks, and organised a petting zoo during Revision Aid. We introduced RAG reps to society committees. We attended NUS Demo 2012. We attended Bucks protests to protect medic sports clubs. We carried out our biggest ever survey of student experience on clinical placements. We secured a commitment to freeze international students' fees for the duration of their course. We delivered 700 postcards with students' ideas directly to the Vice-Chancellor's desk. Secured an additional £1.1 million for halls of residence improvements. Won NUS Best LGBT Plus campaign for Out in Sport. Won Best Student Media in NUS Wales Awards. Raised £1,500 for Willpower with a charity calendar. Introduced a new staff role to support student activities. Co-wrote the university's first sports strategy. Built a new website to keep students better informed. Erected new bilingual signage throughout the building. Trained a record number of student academic reps. And also heavily influenced the university's priorities for capital spend with our £100 million survey. Since 2012, the National Student Survey, or NSS, has included a question regarding the satisfaction in students' unions. In 2012, results at Cardiff has remained in the top 10 of all students' unions in the UK, and the top students' union in Wales. – 2012-13 was the penultimate year of the union's current strategy, and many of the targets were very stretching. In addition, some of the original targets have become less applicable over time and not rigorously pursued. For 2013-14, the Union's operating plan has been simplified and includes 20 targets that I'll show you later. Sorry, I'm not sure why that's so pale. In 2012-13, 500 students were trained as reps in comparison to 200 the year before. 2013 saw the first ever Speak Week, a week offering students the chance to give feedback on their university experience through online surveys, feedback points around campus, and an ideas wall in the Students' Union. ARC advises on a range of issues, including academic, consumer, housing, employment, student finance, money matters, and personal matters. During 2012-13, the Advice and Representation Centre saw a marked increase in the number of students seeking help. In total, 1,739 individual students sought help, compared to 1,225 in 2011-12. In 2012-13, 16,616 students used one or more of the Union services, compared to 15,760 in the year before. That represents more than a 5% increase in overall engagement with students. In total, this amounts to 60% of all Cardiff students. In addition to this, we recognise that many students may engage with us in ways that aren't measurable, like using the social facilities in the Union and buying things through our shops, bars and cafes. The Union enters athletic union teams in British universities and college sport, or BUCS, and the performance of all teams is measured in the BUCS National League table. In 2012-13, the Union slipped from 17th to 19th place, but remained in the top 20 out of 140 participating institutions. The Athletic Union faced the removal of all medics teams from BUCS last year. Through much protest, lobbying and time spent in discussion by a number of stakeholders, an agreeable solution has been reached for September 2014, and medics teams will be reinstated at no detriment to the ability for healthcare students to play for other university teams. During 2012-13, society membership reached an all-time high, with 4,872 students signing up, representing nearly 18% of all students registered at the university. Last year's Go Global was a huge success, involving thousands of students, 28 events, and with 36 societies participating. The Union also supports a range of student-led media outlets, Guy Reeve, Quench, Express Radio and CUTV. Over the year, 146 students contributed to the media groups. In April 2013, student media moved from its space on the 4th floor of the Union to a purpose-built space on the 3rd floor. In March, 4,898 Cardiff students elected the current group of elected officers through a secret ballot. This represents a slight drop on the previous year, but in 2013-14, the Union has committed to trying to get over 8,000 students to participate, or about 29% of Cardiff students. The Student Council became the Ministry of Change. Whilst the name hasn't stuck, we're now calling Student Council Student Senate. Ministry of Change successfully increased the number of items submitted by students from 10 in 2011 and 12 to 63 last year. During 2012-13, 134 students attained communication certificates, 155 personal effectiveness, and 161 in leadership. This was through our skills development service located on the 2nd floor. In total, 1,797 individual students took part in skills development sessions. That's a huge 39% increase on the year before. The Union supports a huge programme of community volunteering in Cardiff and the wider community through Student Volunteering Cardiff, or SVC. Last year, SVC started the following new projects. Confident Futures Project, in partnership with Widening Access Team, a project supporting young people living in care to develop skills, confidence and aspirations about higher education. Fab 5 Partner Planners and Make and Bake, both are clubs organising events and activities for older people. And working with the Innovate Trust, volunteers were matched to adults with learning, physical and or mental health disabilities living in supported housing. During 2012-13, at least 8,659 students attended our nighttime activities in the Union building, an 18% increase on 2011-12. It isn't possible to capture the data on all students that use these facilities, and therefore the number of users would probably be higher. The union wholly owns its own letting agency based on the ground floor. Established in 2005, Cardiff Student Letting housed 1,499 students last year and is the only letting agency in Cardiff not to charge agency fees. Despite this, Cardiff Student Letting still makes a healthy profit that is then reinvested into the union's other activities and services. In 2012-13, Job Shop continued to be a highly valued and accessed service by Cardiff students, with 1,870 students being placed into part-time or temporary work, a slight increase on the year before. We also run an IT shop and a hair salon. Last year, the IT shop repaired 1,232 laptops, and students were saved a total of £30,800. The Heath Hub is the heart of the Heath-based union activity. Students can access a multitude of services provided by the Students' Union, such as Job Shop, Cardiff Student Letting, Advice and Representation Centre, as well as the skills development courses. 1,971 students engaged with the union via the Heath last year. That's a 184% increase on previous years. In the summer of 2013, the union undertook its biggest renovation programme in the union building's history, with the fourth floor and half of the third floor being internally demolished, remodelled and refurbished. Costing just over £1 million, the refurbishment provides a vastly improved space for student engagement, a new advice and representation space, and additional and improved bookable space for student groups. These projects were driven by the union's research of student needs and were funded by Cardiff University. In addition to the major changes on the top two floors of the union building, some more modest improvements were made to the reception space on the second floor, and we have a new catering option, the pantry, which serves hot food, drinks and milkshakes, and the box office was permanently closed, with all tickets now being moved to online. A little more detail about the potential building works for the future. So following the success of the capital developments in 2012 and 13, the union intends on undertaking its biggest capital development to date in 2014. During late 2013 and early 2014, the union will be consulting with students and university stakeholders in remodelling the vast majority of the second floor in the building. It's hoped that the development project will begin in April 2014 and be completed by September in preparation for the new academic year. Current plans include building a glass roof on Solus and introducing a mezzanine level so that the space can have a more flexible use than currently possible. As mentioned earlier, our new organisational targets have been streamlined and now fall into 4 categories: stakeholders, learning and growth, financial management and control, and systems, policies and procedures. I won't read through them all, but this is the strategy going forward for the organisation. The elected officers' priorities is something that I'll go through in a minute. That's the end of the annual report. Does anybody have any questions?
No. Thanks, Carrie. And if you'd like to move on to the financial report, yeah?
This executive summary first.
Pardon?
Executive summary first.
Oh, yeah, executive summary, yeah, my bad.
So I'm going to use this to briefly cover some of the political and representative objectives for the year ahead. So what we've talked about just now is a review on last year. This is kind of looking forwards in terms of this year's officer team and what some of the things they're planning on doing. So these targets have been set by this year's officers through their election manifestos, as well as using the constant stream of feedback and ideas that we receive from you. We're going to be looking into our engagement data by demographic. We want to find out how diverse the body of engaged students are in all our activities, so that we can ensure we're providing opportunities that are accessible to all. We wish to improve the service offered to sports clubs and societies by unifying and modernising our systems, by moving a number of processes online, including a new room booking service and online budget application. Student groups have greater independence and staff time will be freed up to better support development. As a union, we're very good at providing sporting and drinking opportunities. That's not to say that we should stop doing those things. However, we want to ensure that the student voice is truly at the heart of everything that we do. And so this year, the union wishes to secure its future as the hub of student representation by placing greater emphasis on both the academic rep and student senate systems. It is for these reasons that VP Education Ollie Wannell has submitted Motion 7, and the changes to our democratic system in the union's constitution seek to be ratified by a special resolution. Those two things will be following shortly. We want to ensure that we're not just focusing on employability as a students' union. It's all very well having graduates with well-written CVs and loads of content for interviews, but we also need to concentrate on employment and enterprise. We're looking into joined-up work with the university to encourage local SMEs to provide short-term work experience or longer paid internships for Cardiff students. The aim being that more SMEs will be encouraged to create permanent work opportunities for recent graduates and to demonstrate to students the benefits of employment in SMEs. When it comes to lobbying the university on our priorities, in no particular order, some of them are the recording of all lectures, personal online timetabling that's released before the start of term, the creation of a progress tracker that will allow you to better understand what grade you're currently at and what classification you're heading towards, provision of typed electronic feedback on all courses, fighting the proposed change from personal tutors to academic advisors, as we believe that academic and welfare issues are intrinsically linked, improvements to learning and social space across campus, that includes the Heath, securing commitment for bettering the provision of mental health support services, the creation of liberation-based pastoral support roles in each of the colleges, continued investment in activity facilities, including a 3G pitch, new Astro and multi-use studio spaces, and finally, getting the university to act as a guarantor for international students, EU students and care leavers who wish to live in private accommodation. We're also part of some national campaigns, one being Fund Further, Fund Higher, which looks to reverse the proposals in the Welsh draft budget, which suggests £65 million of cuts to further and higher education in Wales. Also Pound in Your Pocket Wales, which is some research that we're going to be heavily involved with, basically looking at how students can best fund their time at university. And also lobbying against the immigration bill, particularly the part on NHS international fees. That's the end of the executive summary. There's a lot more that the officers will be working on throughout the year, and obviously as things change and new priorities come up, the work of officers can fluctuate. But if you ever have any ideas, please come to talk to us, or you can submit them to Student Senate on our website, cardiffstudents.com. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Carrie. I would just like to say that this meeting is your chance to have your say on how the union is run, and many of the policies that will come up later on have big effects for societies and sports. And I'd like to encourage everybody to stay in the room for the duration of the meeting as well. If you'd like to move on to the financial reports.
No questions?
Oh yeah. Have you asked yet? Sorry, does anybody have any questions on the annual report? Anybody? No? Yeah, Carrie, we can move on to the financial reports.
Okay, this is my final bit for a while. Apologies that I've been up here talking at you for such a long time. So this is the financial report for the union, as opposed to Cussell, which was what we saw earlier. Okay. So last year was a fair year overall for the union's finances. Within the union's charitable activities, both the income received and the expenditure spent matched the overall increase in student engagement. Other than money spent directly on student groups, all of the income comes from gifted space, people and support from the union's trading company, Cardiff Union Services Limited. This income increased to reflect the ever-increasing amount of energy focused on our charitable goals. In the accounts, it shows a significant drop in salaries and wages in 2012-13 compared to 2011-12. This is because the salaries for sabbatical officers was moved from into the union activity line on the recommendation of union's auditors. Overall, the charity made a small surplus and it continues to hold a small balance sheet value. This will continue as our major risks and infrastructure costs are held within Cardiff Union Services Limited. Any questions?
No? We'll now go to a vote to approve the financial report. So can I have a show of hands, those approving? Yeah? Okay, thank you very much. And those against? And those anybody against? No. And those abstaining? Thank you. The financial report is approved. We will now, so the next part of the meeting is affiliations. And so these are our current affiliations. And does anybody have any questions? So we're going to go on to a vote if we want to approve these affiliations for next year. So can we have those approving and those abstaining and those against? Okay, so we've approved the affiliations. The next agenda item are candidate introductions. So the Students' Union recently held by-elections to elect student senators and scrutiny members. The elections were a big success because we had an increased turnout of 215% on the previous year. A brief description of each role, if you know them or don't, are student senators are members of the Student Senate. They're responsible for creating and reviewing union policies. The Senate has the power to make policy which ensures the union works in a way which reflects the values and ideals of the student body. Scrutiny members are responsible to hold the elected officers accountable to their commitments, monitor any ongoing projects, and ensure that they're at all times striving to improve the student experience. So we have, everybody should have ballot sheets in front of them. And I'd like to say that for Student Senate, Thomas Evans gives his apologies. And on the Scrutiny Committee, Dimple gives his apologies. So the Students' Union, we've called for nominations to fill the vacant space on the Student Senate and the 3 vacant spaces on Scrutiny. The nomination, obviously the nominations are on your sheets. So we'll be inviting the candidates to give a 1-minute speech to introduce themselves and to say a few words as to why people should vote for them. Sorry, we just have a change. Tom has arrived and he will be able to do his speech. But I'd like to invite the candidates up now. Can I invite... Oh, and yeah, if you could... if Owace could come up, please. Yeah.
Wow, this is scary. This is really scary. I wish I could tell you how amazing you look, every one of you from here. Anyways, hello everyone. My name is Owace. I'm a third-year law and politics student. I'm an international student. Why do I think I'm suitable for this role? Firstly, I honestly believe that there needs to be more representation of international students in the student body. Students from different ethnicities needs to be more involved, not only in terms of international students, but students generally, local students as well. Last year, the voter turnout was just 20%, which is really disappointing. And I personally, I believe
10 seconds. Sorry. Yeah.
All right. I'm a law and politics student, which makes more sense for me to be over here. I'm part of Law Society as an integrated degree officer.
Okay, thank you, Owace.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I'd now like to invite Thomas to the stage. Yeah, Thomas Evans, please. Yeah, you got a minute.
I'm Tomasz. I'm a third-year politics and history student. Throughout my time here, I've been involved within the Students' Union. Last year, I was on the Student Senate and in campaigns on campus. A couple of motions. One to say that we shouldn't let Guy Reed publish articles by the far right, and also in support of Palestinian students. Now, a lot of people say they're going to represent all students. I'm not going to do that. If you're a Tory, for example, who threatened the deportation of 3,000 international students at London Met last year, I'm definitely not going to represent you. If you're in the Students for Life Society, If you're in the Students for Life Society, which has been supporting a protest by 40 Days for Life on St Mary's Street in Cardiff, who are anti-abortionists, sexist, homophobic bigots who try and intimidate women as they go into the abortion rights clinic, I'm not going to represent you. Instead, the first meeting, I'm going to have a motion saying we affiliate to Abortion Rights UK, which is the leading campaigning organisation, and support any demos in defence of women's right to choose. Cheers.
If Joshua Gibbs could please come up. Yeah,
Thanks.
when you're ready.
Hello everyone, my name is Josh Gibbs. I come before you today to ask you to elect me to both the Scrutiny Committee and the Student Senate. Greedy, I know. I want to have as much of an impact as I possibly can, guys. In May, I was elected the president of SHAG, which has been going since '94, but we basically had to start from scratch. Because of that, I've got to grips with a lot of the parts of the union that have helped us, and a lot of the parts of the union that need to be improved. As well as that, I'm also the postgrad rep on the Law Society. What, no cheer? I'm asking you to be elected, guys, because I come with the confident experience of a president, but also the humble perspective of a representative. I'm an undergrad here of 3 years, but also a postgrad, and I think we need more postgrad representation on these committees. I'm someone you can approach.
10 seconds. Yeah.
Someone who's focused and pragmatic. Someone who's amazingly good-looking. Who wrote that? But wants to have an honest and sincere impact. So vote for me, Josh Gibbs. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Josh. If Nick Holbrook could come to the stage, please. When you're ready, Nick.
Hi guys, I'm Nick Holbrook. I'm a third year archaeology student. I've been involved with the student union since my second year, and I've managed to avoid doing any of this public speaking in that entire time. I've been on student council, welcome crew, volunteered for various product events, activities. I was elected for the mature students officer for 2 years. I've been involved with the sports teams, obviously not as a player, but I drive them on Wednesdays and often at the weekends. I did actually run for this position in the initial elections. Unfortunately, I was ill, was unable to canvass, and I ended up being the first runner-up. So had someone not dropped out, I would have actually had the role in the first place. I will represent everyone. I don't care your political views. I think everyone deserves representation. I might not agree with you, but I'll certainly represent you. I hope you can support my candidacy, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Nick. Thank you to all the Student Senate candidates. We'll now start with the Scrutiny Committee candidates. So, Dimple gives his apologies. And can I ask, and Joshua has already, well, he, would you like another opportunity, Josh, or did you said it in your Senate speech, didn't you? Okay. So, can I invite Dara Quinn to the stage, please?
I've got a habit for falling over things. I was terrified I'd not make it up the steps. I'm just here really quickly to ask you to vote for me to get onto the Scrutiny Committee. I'm involved a little bit in student politics already. I'm on the Student Senate, and I'm also one of the academic reps. And seeing as the union is there to represent you pastorally and academically, I think I've got a good balance to see how things are affecting you on the ground. And I'm also always available for you to come up and ask me if you've got any questions or any queries. So yeah, it's just to say, vote for me to get onto the Scrutiny Committee. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dara. Can Dan Tucker please come to the stage?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dan Tucker, and I'm a first-year law and politics student, and I'm seeking election to the Student Senate Scrutiny Committee. I'm studying tonight because, like you, I'm passionate about democracy. When I was in sixth form, only, 6 months ago, I was part of a... Yeah, I know. Oh, fresh face, first year, I know. I was part of a team that won the Best School Council of the Year award from the Speaker of the House of Parliament. And with that experience and that energy, I hope to carry it through into this new year and to represent you and to scrutinise the system in your favour with the experience that I've gained. Thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, Dan. Would Alexander White please come to the stage?
Hi guys, I'm Alex White. It says Alexander on the ballot paper. You might have seen me hobbling around with no shoes on lately. I'm a fourth year religious studies and Spanish student, and I'd love you to elect me to be on the scrutiny committee. I've got 3 reasons why. My first one is that I'm really keen that the student union would continue forward with the right values. Example of this is that the new offices that the officers are occupying cost about £250,000, and yet this year Star Society, who work with refugees, have received £50 from the union. I'm not blaming anyone specifically, and I'm not for a second saying this is anyone's fault, but I'd love to scrutinise that. Secondly, I'm really passionate about getting as many students as possible engaged and involved. I know that's the remit of the elected officers, and I'd love to scrutinise them for that. Finally, I am involved at the moment. I'm the marketing coordinator for the Oxfam Society. I play for an IMG football team, and all of this means that I see the effect of the policy of the union all the time, and I'm able to see it. So please vote for me, Alexander White. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Alex. I've just been told that Catherine has sent her apologies. So at any point now during... thank you very much to the scrutiny committee candidates. At any point during this meeting, if you'd like to fill in your ballot paper, it's the transferable vote, so you can put 1, 2, 3, 4, or just 1 or 2 or anything like that. And there'll be ballot boxes at the exits on the way out, if you could just put them in there. So we move to the next part of the meeting, which is the Special Resolution Governance Review. I'd like to invite Carrie to the stage, please. Thanks.
Hi, sorry, me again. So we're asking you to approve our new Memorandum and Articles of Association, as well as Ordinance 13, which is basically the university's summary of what it says in our Memorandum and Articles of Association. This is basically the backbone of our constitution, which is kind of the governing documents for the union, the way the union's run, and kind of our overarching rules, I guess. So the main changes that are kind of happening in the new version, we want to add student trustees to our trustee board. This was something that kind of came to the AGM as a policy a couple of years ago, but because the constitutional changes required to allow that to happen haven't happened until now, we haven't actually been able to put it into practice. So if we, approving these changes will mean that we can actually start doing that. Another change is that company law members, so students will no longer be members of the company. Instead, it'll just be the trustees that are a member of the company. In practice, the only difference this makes is that instead of every student being liable for £1, the trustees will actually be liable, and we're covered by insurance anyway, so you won't actually be liable, but on paper, that's the change. I don't think there's much else to say about it. If anyone has any... do we take questions on this one? Or
yeah.
Not? If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to field them.
Any questions? Okay. We'll now go to a vote. I'd like to remind you that this special resolution needs 75% plus 1 majority to pass. So we'll now go to a vote. Can I have those approving? Yeah, and can you keep your hands up quite clearly so we can actually count? Actually, can I ask for those against and those abstaining? Yeah. Oh, one moment. Yeah, the special resolution is approved. Okay, so that's that part. We are now moving on to the motions. So, sorry, one moment. Okay. Yeah. We also need a second vote. We need one for the ordinance. So can I have those who are in favour? Those that are approving ordinance 13. We need a 75% majority. 50 for this. 50 is this one, not 75%. And those against, please. And those abstaining. One moment. Yes, so the Ordinance 13 is approved. Now we move on to the motions. So we're going to have speakers coming up, speaking for it, and then we'll open it up to the floor, or if anybody wants to speak against. So I'd like to invite Kerith up to speak for the bilingual policy. Oh, and you've got 4 minutes. Okay.
Thank you. Diolch, Aled. Noswaith dda, good evening. My name is Kerith Rhys-Jones. I'm the Welsh Students Officer at the Students' Union. The purpose of my motion is to give the Students' Union a clear pathway to becoming a truly bilingual organisation. That, I believe, is right and appropriate given that we're in Cardiff, the capital city of Wales. I believe that the Union has a responsibility to ensure that it treats the Welsh language and the English language with equal respect, and that it provides sufficiently for our students who wish to engage with the Union through the medium of Welsh. In 2011, the National Assembly for Wales passed a piece of legislation called the Welsh Language Measure. Under the terms of that measure, the Welsh Language Commissioner, whose job was created under it and who was appointed by the First Minister of Wales, will implement a set of standards on the Welsh language. They won't apply directly to the Union per se, because it isn't a public body, but the Commissioner told me when I met with her last month that because the Union receives well in excess of £400,000 of public money from the university annually, she will apply the standards to the Union as well. From a logistical and financial perspective, therefore, the Union has a responsibility to start preparing now for when those standards come into force. Aside from that argument, Cardiff University has more Welsh-speaking students than any other higher education institution in the world. Around 10% of all of our students have Welsh language skills, and almost 30% of our Welsh domiciled students have Welsh language skills, and that's well above the national average at the last census. It is right and proper that our union respects the heritage and culture of the country in which it is situated, and in that sense, the union has a moral obligation to enhance and improve its Welsh language provision. That means communicating with students bilingually, using Welsh language signage, and ensuring that that students can receive services in Welsh. I know this will take time and effort. That's why my motion allows for the Union to work with me, with NE West Wales, and with the Welsh Language Commissioner to draft and implement a Welsh language policy that the Commissioner can assist with and monitor, and gives the Union scope to work with colleagues towards operating best practice in terms of bilingualism, which is a core policy of the Union and is a key component of the modern Wales. I'm not asking the Union to change overnight. I know that's not possible. What this motion will do is say to the Union, you have to start working on this, you have to take it seriously. The Welsh language isn't just a luxury that we can only afford when we're rolling in money, or a dead language, as some people wrongly think, or a policy area to be overlooked in terms of more important things. It is an important part of the 21st century Wales. It's a major part of the Welsh education system, and it is one of the main elements of civic society in Wales. We must ensure that we're doing our part, that we're respecting the culture of this country, that we're providing for all of our students, and that we're doing our best to work towards being a truly bilingual organisation at the heart of the Welsh capital city. Cefnogwch y cynnig hwn os gwelwch yn dda. Please support this motion. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cereth. I would like to announce that there has been an amendment submitted to this, and it has been approved. So, yeah, it's been approved by Cereth. So, would anybody like to speak against? Yeah. So, the amendment that was submitted was just to add point 4, which was to incorporate a commitment to bilingualism into a full-time elected officer job descriptions, which you can read. And yeah, would anybody like to speak against? No. Does anybody have any questions for the proposer? Yes. Yeah. No, the man. Yeah.
When you say,
can you say your name, please?
Andrew Barrett.
Okay.
When you say 29% of Welsh domiciled students have some level of Welsh language skills, what sort of level is that? I.e., fluency to know a couple of words.
The figures for this year aren't available yet, but I've been told that the figures that I've got are based on last year, and they're rough figures. I'm not sure exactly how the university sort of calculates who speaks Welsh to a fluent level, who speaks just sort of conversational Welsh. I would imagine, though, that it wouldn't include people who can just say a few words, because that doesn't really count as being able to speak a language, I would think.
Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah, the person you were holding. Yeah.
Sophie Mullins. I was just wondering, can you clarify, does that mean that elective officers would have to be bilingual?
No.
Good.
Simple.
Any other questions? Yeah, lady with the red hair.
Maya Macy. To what extent is this going to affect paperwork? Because I'm from Wales and I notice bilingualism and it's like killing the trees, just saying.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
To what extent is this going to like double the paperwork production? I know it's just elected officers, I just want clarification.
I don't have sort of figures about that, but what I would say is that we're in Wales. The law is that the Welsh language has official status in Wales. From, I think, the start of 2014 onwards, the union is going to have to do all of this, whether we want to or not. And I think the Commissioner will have powers to fine us if we don't. So, really, in terms of the law, it's clear that we have to make this change. And my motion is just about really making sure that the union starts to prepare for that now.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yeah. Lisa?
Lisa Childs. How would you implement this amendment, and under what capacity would a elected officer have
The questions aren't to do with the amendment.
Okay.
Because the amendment's
okay.
Obviously the amendment's been accepted, so we're still talking about the motion because the amendment is now the motion.
Okay, great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fun.
Bethu, what is your question?
I was just going to ask how on earth you'd implement that.
Well, I think the motion gives plenty of scope for us to talk about that, about how we can implement it. It's about saying to the union that it has to work with stakeholders and colleagues across sort of the Welsh language community, if you like, including me, including NUS Wales, including the Commissioner, to put a policy in place that is right and appropriate under the law, that is right and appropriate under sort of the union's moral obligations as well.
Okay, thank you for the questions. Because of time, we'd like to move on. And does anybody have any further comments they'd like to make, or we'll go to a vote? Okay, we'll go to a vote. Can I have those for the motion, please raise their hands, please. And those against? And those abstaining? Okay, the motion is passed. Yep. So we'll now move on to the second motion, and that's amending the role of the Welsh Students Officer. And I'd like to ask Kerith again, please.
Diolch, Aled. For this current academic year, as I said, I'm one of the union's 8 part-time officers, and I'm responsible for representing Welsh-domiciled students who are Welsh speakers and non-Welsh speakers alike. Representing Welsh students is a surprisingly hard thing to do, because Welsh students don't represent a liberation group in their own right. Many Welsh students at Cardiff come under other liberation groups, students with disabilities, LGBT+, postgrads, mature students and so on, and that's compounded by the fact that there isn't a Welsh student society that I can go to consult with, or to be part of. I'd also note that I believe that Welsh students, that is, students that come from Wales, regardless of their language, don't have distinct interests that need representing, as opposed to English students or Scottish students, etc. Conversely, Welsh-speaking students do represent a liberation group within the structures of NUS Wales and the Union. There is a society for Welsh speakers, y Gymdeithas Cymraeg, and the Welsh-speaking students have genuine interests that need and deserve to be represented within our union. For that reason, I'm proposing that from the next academic year onwards, the role of Welsh Students Officer be changed to Welsh Language Officer. That'll give a clear focus to the work of my successor. It'll guide my successor in his or her work of representing the interests of Welsh-speaking students at Cardiff University. This motion will also mandate my successor to work with colleagues at NUS Wales, the National Welsh College and the University to give an academic focus to my successor's work, enhancing and improving the quality of Welsh medium provision at Cardiff University and working to represent the interests of Welsh speakers here. It will also mandate my successor to work with the Union centrally and with the Welsh Society, y Gymdeithas Cymraeg, so as to be able to properly represent the views of Welsh-speaking students at Cardiff University. This isn't a huge change, it's more of an administrative clean-up, but it's one which I think is needed in order to give those who occupy my role in future the focus they need to be able to fulfil their duties within the Union and outside of it too. Cefnogwch y cynnig hwn os gwelwch yn dda. Please support this motion. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kerith. Does anybody wish to speak against the motion? Yes, the lady. Wait for a microphone. One second. You can come to the stage. You can come to the stage if you'd like.
I was just wondering. Laydell.
Yeah, you've got 4 minutes, by the way.
Doesn't
but
that
you don't...
alienate Welsh students who don't speak the language?
Is this a question or?
Welsh. It's a question. Are you not having
right?
questions?
Does anybody want to actually speak against? And we'll come back to questions.
Oh, okay.
Does anybody wish to speak against? No. So yeah, we're now moving on to questions, and yeah, you can. Yeah. And Kerith will come back to the stage.
Laydell. I was just wondering, changing it from Welsh Students Officer to Welsh Language Officer, doesn't that alienate Welsh students who don't speak the language?
No, I don't think so, because the point that I would make is that students from Wales, regardless of their language, and especially if they don't speak Welsh, well, don't have that distinct interests as opposed to students from other parts of the UK that need to be represented within the Union, because the point of one of the part-time officers is to represent that particular group of people as a liberation group if they have particular interests that need to be represented. And I think the interests of non-Welsh speaking Welsh students at Cardiff aren't that different to those from other parts of the UK unless they fit under any of the other liberation groups.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? And can I just remind you just to state your name clearly when you speak, please? Yeah, in the front there.
Hi, Tom, you said you don't think that there's many differences between English students as well.
Is the microphone okay? And can you say your full name as well, please?
Tom said, you said you don't think that there's many differences between Welsh students, Scottish students, English students. But surely there are a greater amount of differences in the last few years than we've ever seen in higher education with the changes in tuition fees. And with the Welsh Government's review coming up, Welsh students, regardless of their linguistic skills, are all in a vulnerable position. So don't you think that losing this representation at this time is only a negative thing?
I would say that representation on those sorts of issues shouldn't be dealt with at part-time officer level, because those are such important issues that affect a massive part of a student's education. Those, I would suggest, would be dealt with by one of the full-time officers, the VP Education, or maybe even above him, or her in future, whatever. I don't think there's much that I can do at my level to represent those sorts of issues. So in terms of that, I don't think the change would affect it very much.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Yeah, you in the back there with the card.
Yeah, I understand your argument that the Welsh language speakers have a specific interest. What makes you think that your specific group has a greater right to a representative on a part-time position than, say, groups from other language speakers at the university?
I think because we're in Wales, because Welsh has official status in Wales, that the union has a responsibility to act bilingually, as we've just voted on, and the university has a responsibility to act bilingually, as is law. So, students have a right, according to law, to expect those services. So they need someone in the union who's at part-time officer level to be able to represent those issues.
But then also, why do you have to get rid of the Welsh students that don't speak Welsh? Can't the part-time officer still fulfil his duties to ensure the Welsh language carries on at the university?
Well, I don't think that Welsh students need a representative, because any other interests that they may have can be represented by the other officers. If they're not full-time officers, then part-time officers.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Any other questions? The gentleman there on the left. And then we'll come to the person at the back just after that.
Thomas Connolly. I'm just intrigued by...
I can't hear you.
It's Thomas Connolly, and I'm just intrigued by what would you say constitutes being Welsh then? Is it speaking the language? Or is it the fact that you come from Wales and have spent a majority or all of your life in Wales? What means that they are less Welsh than the people who speak the Welsh language, that they don't deserve the representation from the Welsh officer?
I don't think that's relevant to the motion, but it's up to individuals how they define themselves and identify themselves.
Well, I think what I'm trying to get at here is that you seem to be placing the priority on the Welsh language students, and I understand that, but I'm wondering why you feel the need to then say that you don't have to have the duty to sort of represent Welsh students who don't speak Welsh. Surely you'll have the same sort of representation. You will be representing the same number of people if you keep both parts of your job.
Yeah.
I think if those students, as in Welsh students who can't speak Welsh or don't speak Welsh, have particular interests that need to be represented, they're going to be represented by one of the full-time officers or the part-time officers who represent the other liberation groups. From a part-time officer's perspective, there's not much that I can do to represent Welsh students in particular, because whatever they need to be represented that isn't to do with the Welsh language is going to be represented by someone else already.
Okay, but...
Okay, thank you. Can we move to... Yeah, can we move to the person in the back who had a question? And can I just remind everybody to keep the questions relevant to the particular motion? Thank you.
Jack Moll. So if the last motion was passed and the elected officers have more of a duty to bilingualism, which is going to be kind of enforced by the government or something like that, what will your successor actually do if he's just focused on the Welsh language, which is kind of covered by the last motion? So what will it be the jobs left for him?
Well, him or her. I would say that the motion particularly says that my successor will have to work with colleagues in the Council of Welsh Language Officers, which I think is the English title, with the NUS Wales Welsh Language Officer, with the National Welsh College, with the university, with the union, to improve the academic experience of Welsh students and also to represent their rights as Welsh speakers.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any comments they wish to make, or we'll go to a vote? Yeah, you had your hand up in the back? No? Okay. Yeah, can I just remind everybody as well to keep the noise level down between when everybody's talking as well, please? Thank you. If we can now go to a vote. So can I have hands in the air for those for the motion? And those against the motion? And well, we'll go to a count. So can we have hands in the air clearly for those for, and it's going to be counted. So if you can keep them, clear and visible, please.
So
until I say to put them down, please. So this is
too
for.
Strongly towards the motion. Yeah, the majority seems to be in favour of the motion.
We have to wait for the results first, don't we? And Emma will tell you when the count is done as well. Thank you. If you just can keep your hands visible. Sorry, visible, not down. Sorry? No, this is full.
And there's a count going on of the votes because it looks fairly close, actually.
Still keep your hands in the air if you're voting for. Right, right, we need to do a recount then, so I'm sorry, but can we have hands in the air for the motion, and they'll be counted quickly. And thank you for putting your hands in the air. So those against? And keep them in the air until I say, please.
And there are also a fairly large number of students voting against the motion. Just for those of you who can't see this at home. It's going to be close by the looks of it.
And those abstaining, please. Okay. Okay, so I can... I've had a request as well to do whether up or down. So it is 211 for, 208 against. So it is passed. We now move on to the next item, next motion, and that is the time to change pledge. So I'd like to invite Helen to the stage. Thank you. Thanks, Helen. You have 4 minutes.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming down here tonight, and I'll try and keep this quick because I know we've got a lot to get through. Tonight, I want to talk about mental health. Everyone has mental health. It simply describes how we are feeling. But there's a stigma surrounding mental health that to have it means that there is something wrong with you. Time to Change is a campaign led by mental health charities which encourages organisations to sign a pledge to show that they want to challenge the stigma and take action to lead to positive change. However, we are making progress. The tireless work of our excellent student-led services, Mental Wealth, Student Minds and Nightline show that there is a desire in the student movement for change, and signing the pledge will show that we want our students' union and university to have a frank and honest discussion about mental health. If more of us challenge the stigma, more of us will access the services that we need. Students are particularly vulnerable to mental health issues, as most of us have moved away from home and coping with independence for the first time. Anxiety, stress, loneliness and depression are examples of common mental health issues for students, and for those with more serious mental health issues, coming to university and faced with them more challenging. Since 2006, the number of students who visited the counselling service at Cardiff University has doubled. Of course, this shouldn't be necessarily viewed in a negative way, for it might not mean that more students are suffering from mental health issues, but more students are accessing the help that they need. So I'm asking you to mandate me to lobby the university to also sign the Time to Change pledge to ensure that the support services that we offer are responding to this growing demand for mental health services. I'm your Vice President Welfare, and one of my main election promises to you was to prioritise mental health, and that's what I'm trying to do tonight. By voting in favour of the Time to Change pledge, you are voting that you want your students' union and university to challenge the stigma surrounding mental health, to continually improve support services for its students, and because you also think that it is time to change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone like to speak against? Anyone? No. We'll now move to questions. So, does anybody have any questions?
Anyone?
Any further comments? So we will go straight to a vote. Can I have hands in the air for 4, please?
Oh, wow, thank you.
And those against? And those... Oh, yeah, so those against. And those abstaining? So passed.
Thank you very much.
We now move on to the fourth motion, and that is the Black and Ethnic Minority Part-Time Officer. If Edo could come to the stage, please. Edo, right? And if everybody can stay in the room, please, that would... Yeah. Yeah, Ed, you have 4 minutes.
Sweet. All right. I'm proposing for the members to pass my motion to introduce a new part-time officer role called the Black and Ethnic Minorities Officer. As it currently stands, Cardiff University Students' Union has 8 part-time officers: Welsh, Women's Officer, Students with Disabilities, LGBT+, Ethical and Environmental, Mature Officer, Postgraduate Students, and International Officer, none of which provide the representation to the students of African, Asian, Arab, Caribbean, or other ethnic descent, and none of which can address all the issues which affect these students. As a result of this, these students are underrepresented within the Students' Union. There are 30,000 people of an ethnic minority in Cardiff, and 1 in 5 students in Cardiff University are of an ethnic minority as well. When I started this role, I was shocked by the number of universities who had a similar part-time officer role in their universities. So Birmingham, Hull, Swansea, just to name a few. And I told certain individuals about the lack of representation, and I received a response which to me demonstrates just how important it is for this position to exist. What they said was the international officer will represent them. I myself, I'm a black student, but I'm not an international student. I'm from Coventry. The work the international officer does is not done to represent students such as myself. What they do is to convene and chair meetings of relevant international societies, and also to represent those international students within the university, locally, nationally, and liaising with relevant governing bodies and organisations. So to lump all students such as myself with, whether international or domestic, under that remit, I don't think is appropriate. So I'm putting it to the members to pass the motion to have a Black and Ethnic Minorities part-time officer, and I can give you both the short-run and long-run benefits of having the officer position. So the short-run benefits will be that these students and other ethnic students as well will no longer be underrepresented within the Students' Union. The union can represent these students with an individual who can both appreciate and understand the needs and voice of these particular students. The long-term benefits will be to address the inequality of engagement with which the university currently has with Black and ethnic minority students. From the evidence of the National Student Survey of last year, currently black students have an overall satisfaction rating of 80% as opposed to the university average and the white student average of 89%. While to some of you this is only 9%, but in terms of the student survey, this is a massive disparity. So with the aim of the part-time officer post will be to enable a greater number of African, Arab, Asian, Caribbean and other ethnic students to get involved in greater aspects of the Students' Union, from the athletic union to societies, to student voice, to student democracy, all aspects of the Students' Union. So the position of the Black and Ethnic Minorities Officer will become a part-time officer post at Cardiff University Students' Union for the foreseeable future in order to support these students, as well as the part-time officer in their campaigning on equality issues and raise awareness of equality and liberation issues, both amongst the student body as a whole and in the wider community. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Ed. I'd just like to say that we're doing really well for time, but if we do drop below a minimum level, then this meeting will need to be reconvened next week. So if you can, and I'd just like to encourage people to stay in the room. Would anybody like to speak against Ed's motion? Anybody? No. We'll now move to questions. Does anybody have any questions? Yep.
I'm Connolly again.
I can't hear you, mate.
You hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you state your name as well, please?
Tom Connolly. Just a quick one. Why not just call it Ethnic Minorities Officer instead of Black and Ethnic Minorities Officer? just out of interest?
It's simply just how the phrasing is currently. The phrasing is either black and ethnic minorities or black and minority ethnics. It's just how the phrasing is. Truth be told, we can call it whatever we want, to be honest.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yep, girl at the front. Down here, please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was just wondering why this is a part-time officer, not a full-time officer. And I would also wanted to ask what kind of roles you are expecting from this officer?
I think after last year, where the full-time officers, we can cope with 8. So to add another one when we've already spent a whole year reducing it doesn't seem to make much sense to me.
Any other questions? So, any other questions? Do you have a question? Oh, do you have second part of the question, and then we'll go to
the specific roles of the officers.
It will be for, well, number one, representation of the particular student. So if they have any particular issues that they wish to bring up, that officer will be able to support them with that, and also campaigning as well. So, for example, it was Black History Month in October, and the Students' Union, we did put on certain events, but generally with an officer post, you'll be able to have greater promotion of those events and a greater understanding of those events throughout the whole year.
Yeah. And you're okay, yeah. Any further questions? Does anybody wish to make any comments? So we'll go to a vote. Can I have clear hands in the air for those for the motion, please? And those against?
Again, I'd say there's a strong number of votes for the motion.
And those abstaining? The motion passes. The next motion is introduce a register of interests for all elected positions in the Students' Union. If Stefan could please come to the stage, please. Thank you, Steph. You have 4 minutes.
Diolch, Aled. Well, the motion before you this evening is quite simple, really. I'm not going to keep you very long. I'm sure we've all got better places to be going to after this meeting. The basic principle of my motion is, I'm sure you'll all agree with me, that we want a union that is the most democratic, the most open to scrutiny, and the most transparent that it can possibly be. This is why I feel that the Students' Union should, as a matter of urgency, seek to collate, publish and keep updated a register of interests for all elected positions within the Students' Union. Now, I was approached by Steve, who's sitting on the right over there, to ask for the clarity on this issue ahead of this evening. What do we mean by elected positions and elected officers? So I'll take this opportunity now just to clarify what it means in my motion by elected members. So we're talking about full-time officers, part-time officers, members of the Student Senate and Scrutiny Committee. Further to that, the Students' Union, and I refer to an email from Steve here, a register of interest is made freely available upon request, and that is a legal requirement that through the Charity Commission guidelines that the union must keep, and it does so. But that register isn't publicly available. We can't go online and look who is a member of a political party, what are the interests that may collude with their positions as elected officers of the Students' Union, may intervene in the duties of officers. So this is the motion before you this evening. I hope you can support my motion. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you.
Thank you, Steph. Would any But does anybody wish to speak against? Yep. Ollie?
Hello. I hadn't planned on speaking against this.
You've got 4 minutes, yeah.
Thank you very much. I hadn't planned on speaking against this, but since no one else was going to, I thought it'd be good to give both sides of the story, just like last time. Very good. He was here before. So the reason I'm speaking against this is really about why do we elect people on these committees? Why do we elect full-time officers? Why do we elect student senators, scrutiny committee people? We don't elect them through party political reasons. So there's absolutely no necessity for them to actually reveal any political persuasions, any members of any societies, or anything like that. Now, full-time officers do sit on the board of directors and they sit on the board of trustees. So if full-time officers do have any interest in anything, then they do have to declare that anyway. So the only difference is that it's not made public. And I don't think there's any benefit to it being made public. And if we do, if it's... So I'm being whispered something up. So if this does pass and things are made public, then I wonder what the detriments would be to student politics. We don't want student politics to be, I don't want student politics to be in the way that often NUS politics is run, and that is if you're not a Labour student, then don't bother trying. Because I want everybody in this hall, everyone in this university, to feel that they have a place within our political procedures and within our political structures. And I think this works to the detriment of that. And I also think having to, if you're a member of Student Senate or a full-time officer, part-time officer, whatever, having to reveal that you're a member of whatever society is ridiculous. Do we want to make all of our student senators reveal that they might be a member of the LGBT plus association? I think actually that would be a shame on this union if we forced them to do so. That's why I oppose this, and I hope that you do as well.
Okay, thanks, Ollie. Steph, would you like to reply to that? And you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, thanks, Ollie. I'd like to draw your attention to a few points here. We already have a register of interest of sorts that is already made freely available to those who request such information for the full-time officers. This is something that we must comply with the Charity Commission guidelines. Now, I suppose I could request this information if I so wish, but as I state in my motion, the intention of this motion is by no means to exclude anybody from the student politics, the body that we have here, and the wealth of political diversity that we have on bodies such as the Student Senate. But it is to protect the whole of the student body from individuals that are perhaps careerists, closet Tories, closet members of any party, from being elected on a token where they claim to be totally independent, and while that may not be the case. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you, Steph. Ollie, would you like to make a reply? And then we'll move to questions.
Just one brief point, really. We heard the phrase closet Tories, which is exactly my point about this not becoming the dirty sort of politics that often happens within Westminster and within NUS. Which is, if you're not Labour students, then get